Agents Podcast.
As we continue to navigate the ever-changing landscape that we call the real estate industry, it's always important to continue to find various ways to not only sharpen the knife for what you do on a daily basis, but to potentially find other ways to create revenue streams. And today's guest has a title that I saw from another podcast, From Marine Corps to Real Estate Millionaire. Very cliche. I'll tease you on that one, although good. I want to go deeper into what that really means. And the term novation has come up throughout this gentleman's bio. But I know that he has become an expert in investing. I know that he has a background in selling real estate as an agent himself. I know that he understands how that you can earn more seller deals by how you discuss and providing solutions to your sellers that maybe you didn't have in that gun before. And so that's why I'm excited to have this conversation today with our guest, Trevor Ahing, who is the founder and CEO of a platform called Buyer Beater, which we'll touch on later. But Trevor, welcome to the show. I'm looking forward to this conversation, my friend.
Jeff, my guy, man, what an intro. I appreciate you, dude. Thank you very much for having me, man. It's going to be a fun Friday.
Good. Let's do it, man. So I want to start. Let's digress all the way back to the beginning because we all love a good military story, and you have a good one. So tell us what kind of led you, where you started, what led you to where you are today.
Absolutely, bro. It is as cliche gets. I'm an 8-year Marine myself. You can tell on my moto memorabilia, dude. I mean, first and foremost, I enlisted when I was 19 years old. And coming into it, I was very codependent, wanted to find something that was going to create independence. I was a huge mama's boy, still am, dude. And kind of felt like I wanted world travel and I wanted to be a part of something that had a purpose. And I found myself enlisting in the Marine Corps. Probably the best thing I ever did with my entire life. And I tell you right now, I've been out for about 4 years now. I thought I was going to do 30 years. I loved it a lot, right? I had a very illustrious career. I kind of drank the Kool-Aid really hard. Coming into it, though, I did everything that Marines do that's very cliche, right? Financial literacy is not taught well amongst the military, so I got into a lot of debt. I got married super early, but my woman worked out great. It was good for me, man. Third time we ever met, we eloped, bro. Wow. That's a whole different story, though, Jeff. Met her in Africa, by the way, for the first time. Yeah. Diving a little bit further, my wife ended up telling me, because I wanted to do an entire career in the service, she just says, hey, I'm going to get into real estate. And I said, honey, you totally should. And, you're really pretty. You can sell houses to all my friends. And I bought her a seminar, and it was a seminar from Bigger Pockets that I found. It was local in San Diego. And she ended up, wussing out. She didn't want to go. She's an introverted extrovert. So I said, I'm not wasting those $60 damn, Jeff. So I went in there and I left and I came back to my wife and I said, honey, we're going to become millionaires in real estate, And so I dived into the fact that the VA benefits, are definitely for us. We scratch the Marine Corps' back. They scratch ours. Started house hacking into the service. Ended up buying my properties, renting out all my rooms to my buddies. My wife ended up putting up with it for a couple of our homes and felt like we were getting in front of good financial means through active income. Decided to kind of dissect the industry a little bit deeper and started kind of bleeding into other ways of assignment real estate. And I ended up deploying my last time to the Middle East. And right before I left, I thought I could do both real estate and the Marine Corps. My father-in-law, who's like a father to me, he randomly died of an aneurysm, unfortunately. And it was about 10 days before my deployment. I tried to tell my command I got to stay back for my woman because she was in shambles. And unfortunately, and I understand the Marine Corps is a revolving door. They said no. So not being able to reclaim my time during that, having to be overseas and have my wife worry about me and grieve her father, I just felt like real estate could be a vehicle if I really just put 110% of my brain juice into. I could probably be able to be the man I want to be because I'm in the service to provide for my family, and I felt like I couldn't do it at that time. So started slowly but surely transitioning, ended up buying, quite a bit of properties, got my license in the service and was able to transition through creative means into real estate full time. And now we here we are, man.
Wow. Lot to unpack there. First personal question. You met her in Africa through also military. Is she American? Is she African? What's the descent there? What's the
Yeah,
story?
dude. No. It's a fun story to tell, but we've actually grown up near each other for years. We had no clue. We had mutual friends. She slid in my DMs and she was like, "Hey, you seem really cool. Maybe next time you're stateside, we can go on a hike or something." My wife doesn't hike, dude. And I said, okay. And after we started FaceTiming, it just started clicking. She became like a best friend of mine. And after a couple months, I said, you know what? I kind of want to meet you. So we flew her out to Africa and we spent a couple weeks safari together. And it was the first time we ever met. And it's super romantic, Jeff, until I have a daughter and I go, you will never fly anywhere for a boy, because it's crazy.
Yeah.
And then, the second time we met, I was stateside for I was a best man at my best friend's wedding. Third time was another wedding. And maybe that put us in the mood. But the third time we ever hung out, we decided to elope and we never looked back. I've been going strong for about 8 years, man.
Wow. Wow. So yeah, that's crazy. She had never met you, jumped a plane, didn't just fly across country, flew across continent, across an
Bro.
ocean. And that's a long
Yeah.
ass flight. Like that's
Huge.
where in Africa were you?
Johannesburg at the time. So it was
in
a
South
beautiful area.
Africa.
Yeah, South
So
Africa.
you couldn't get any farther away.
Brother, you could not get any further away. She had a 10-hour layover in Istanbul, Turkey, like a week after the airport bombing. Like it was a whole concoction of crazy that just ended up working out perfect, man.
That's crazy. That is a thing, by the way, isn't it? Always is the layover always in Turkey when you go to Africa? Is that just a thing?
I've
somehow?
done like Dakar. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I've done Turkey a bunch. Like I've had to do that flight 10 or 12 times, and it was mainly there or the very tip of Africa, and then we just didn't have to refuel till we got to Virginia.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's an amazing story in and of itself, and like you said,
Thanks.
probably the story for another day. And yes, that you're gonna have to preach that one to your daughter so the karma doesn't come back and get you when she goes running off to chase.
But Daddy, you did it.
The only reason I'm here, Dad. It's the only reason I'm here.
I know, man. It's hilarious, dude. You're totally right, though. You're totally right.
That's awesome. Okay, so what year was it that you went to the Bigger Pockets seminar, webinar, whatever it was?
2017.
Okay,
it was
so
2017. It was pre-COVID. Yeah, it was about 3 years pre-COVID. I didn't think anything of it. Biggest thing is I just didn't know how attainable it could be. When you think real estate, you think suit and tie. I knew nothing about it. My mom is always going to be a blue collar renter. I didn't grow up with that. And when I started, meeting these dudes at bars wearing flip-flops, owning, 40, 50 doors, drinking beers, I'm like, there's got to be a way I could do this. I like doing that, and then they made it feel very approachable. And luckily I had the right kind of people around me to do that. And so that was kind of my introduction, was more of that Bigger Pockets, Brandon Turner-esque, flow of real estate, which I'm very grateful for.
That's really awesome. Okay, so when you had that moment and then you get home, you tell your wife, you do some investment. What was the very specific first investment? What did that look like? And the reason I'm asking this is because I think this is your story. I think could be very, and I'm sure it is already, inspirational to other current military, active military, just anybody basically.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. So when I came in, it wasn't even a purchase. When I looked at this, that was what was halting me. I stopped for a couple of weeks and I said, you know what? I got to get pre-approved. All these things that they throw at you really quickly, and you get overwhelmed. My buddy just said, why don't you just rent an apartment that's a little bigger for you, or rent a house? Ended up getting an apartment, right, that had 2 extra bedrooms. It was a 3-bed, bigger apartment. My BAH didn't cover it, but my buddy's BAH did, which is called Basic Allowance for Housing. And they already got it. They're single sergeants. And they said, dude, you give me a shelf and a fridge and, in a room, we're good to go. And so I was getting about $1,200 per room. My rent was about $2,500 at the time. And I was saving a couple $1,000. And after a year lease, I had almost $30,000 that, I didn't even, think I could even accumulate from doing something like this. And then that's when it clicked. It was like accidental, just kind of failing forward into the understanding of what real estate could really, what kind of doors it can open fairly quickly.
That's actually, I don't know why nobody does that. And maybe they do, but we don't talk about that. You talk about,
oh yeah.
And I have a couple of 20, younger 20 something girls, I talk to them all the time about how, buy a house, rent rooms to your friends. And I've never actually thought to myself, they could do the exact same thing renting a place. I'm not sure. Maybe this exists. Maybe it's because I'm in the real estate field. I've been in it for 25 years. Nobody talks about that.
They don't. And I'm sure, look, now we can get into this like subletting laws. Maybe landlords don't like the fact that you can position by the room or something like that. At that time, it was not even a thought to me, and so maybe there's some underwriting in regards to it. But I'm sure if you kind of keep that conversation open and you can be a little bit more aggressive on landlord rent, you could probably cash flow it. And as long as you have it with some friends, and you talk about the situation that you're in, you're saving for college or a house or something, I don't think you're going to have too much of an issue.
Yeah, I wouldn't think. I mean, as an owner of a house, as long as you were forthright with me, I don't know that I'd care. As long as I'm getting my
Yeah.
rent, you're taking care of the house, you're responsible. I don't care. I love
Dude,
it.
it's exactly what I started doing. That's what kind of transitioned me with my portfolio in Texas, which we'll get into, but I do midterms. I rent by the room on every house I own, and so it just kind of maybe it just sparked something where I was like, this is not as hard as you'd think it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's something that you can easily do. This is a conversation, especially for, somebody young, hasn't started a family yet, because the minute you start a family, it gets a lot more challenging to do something like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Or maybe somebody who is empty nesting. Probably not. They're probably pretty set in their ways at that point. But, if you're in a position to where, hey, I need to create some cash flow, what an opportunity. So now I want to know, all right, that happened, which obviously was that light bulb moment for you. You chose to, you went overseas, but you went overseas and said, all right, enough's enough. And that was when you decided to get out, right?
Yeah, it was. I ended up, I had multiple meritorious promotions. I felt like I was, I felt like I was hot stuff in the military, and that's why I kind of wanted to keep, exceedingly going in my career. But it really was my last property, and this is when I started owning. My wife was there, and dude, Jeff, I took it to the extreme, right? I got hooked on the real estate bug. So when my father-in-law at the time came in, and I didn't grow up with a father, so I really was kind of loving what he was doing. He was very proud of it. He loved the idea of establishing wealth this way. He was very intrigued, but he didn't like that on our third house, he came in, and I had beds in the living room, dude. I mean, I was like wild with it, Jeff. So I thought it was cool at the time. And he was like, dude, this is awesome as a young 20-year-old. He's like, but he pulled me aside and he was like, but my daughter will get better. Or she does deserve more, and so kind of allow this to happen for the next couple of years. But I do want you to know that we're going to stop this shit here soon, right? Because you're going to start building a family, yada, yada. I never really thought about chapter 2 with it. It was always just kind of like, this is working. Let's just do this more. And as we got into it and we started buying houses and I started delving into it deeper, is when he unfortunately had passed. So we never got to see that transition, but it always stuck with me. So that was my why when I was on deployment. I just kind of utilized that time overseas, and that was during COVID. And I just said, you know what, when I come back, I want to be able to transition seamlessly and kind of dive a little bit deeper to where I know I can start building more wealth than just becoming rich, monthly. So
Yeah. The last question on that, because I want to continue forward, but it also fascinates me based on what you just said. You had beds in like the living room.
yeah.
I mean, I'm just thinking selfishly here. I don't know that I want a bunch of dudes rolling around my house with me and my spouse in that same house. I mean, I don't know. I'm just explain
Dude,
that one to me.
Jeff, you're not wrong, man. We had it, and my wife, it's not like she didn't know these guys. They grew up, they were always my great friends. So I mean, we sat down and we were comfortable with it. My wife didn't tell me. She was like, you know what? There is a position, and she's the only woman. My wife, we always say she's just like a really hot bro. She's one of the guys, but there is a level of cadence where we want our Netflix movie nights and we want these things. But I always thought temporary struggle for permanent results of where we want to be. And I knew it was a means to an end. So I'll tell you right now, don't listen to this, go, honey, this is what we're going to do forever. It's not, this was, a means to an end. And so we
Yeah.
got close to it, and it was very easy to turn off. It really was, especially when she said, we're done. I said, okay, it was a good run. And so we ended up getting our own property.
Awesome. So what was that shift? I mean, what did you do with all the guys that were staying in the beds?
I stayed there, man. I mean, it's still
Nice.
staying. I liquidated out of California because California is California. I'm not going to lie. But when it came down to it, we just ended up transitioning into different markets. So we left, right? We ended up buying a house over in Sacramento, California. And I am from Temecula. So my woman, man, she's been through so much. I was like, babe, we're going to go back home. We're going to go to Sacramento. Here's our house. We're going to bunker down. I'm going to do real estate here. Well, real estate started popping off, quite drastically for me in Riverside County. I really just enjoyed the patriotism of the area. It was close to where I separated out of San Diego. And so as she moved everything in there about 6 weeks later before I got out, and I said, we're going to come right on back over here. So we ended up renting that house, and we bought a house over in Riverside County. And she's like, you're lucky I love you. I'm like, I am lucky you love me. But it was the best decision we made. And we started kind of building our foundation over here more into the creative space, right? I was already transitioning out of the midterm piece, and I ended up finding wholesale, right? Which most people know. I get a lot of service members go, I want to get into wholesale real estate, and that is great, but it's not a get rich quick thing. Anybody tells you it is, it's wrong. You got to be able to spend money to make money, and you need, you need to be able to have some good cushion to get in front of this kind of, to get in front of the operation. I got lucky though, Jeff. I did. So my first deal, when I got into wholesale, this was the transitional period. So this was still after we bought the house. Was $6,000. My second deal though was in Fallbrook, California for 150 grand. And that was a wholesale deal. And I was like, this is easy. We're rich. We can do this all the time. I was lucky enough to like you said, you really, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And the people around me were like, dude, no Ferrari. This is where you're going to bunker down. Put that in your savings, get in front of, investments, put that back in your operations. And I had some sustainability with wholesale. And then that's when I found, Novations. And I felt like that was my graduating gift into what I do now.
All right. Well, let's continue on this path.
I know, dude. A little setup. But my biggest thing is when I couldn't wholesale the deal, what do people do? They listed. So I said, let me get my license. I'm already flirting with these old ladies and talking war stories with the men. Like, it was a great transition. We have rapport. I'll go to your house and, I'll just list it with a discounted commission. But as I'm listing, I get my license. I had 10, 12, 13 listings, and they're not selling because they're pretty crappy houses, right? I'm just really putting on market wholesale homes. And so my offer was too low. These properties are in limbo states, and they're just sitting, they're just collecting dust. And so I said, there's got to be a way to kind of bridge the gap between, that wholesale acquisition to a solution for a homeowner and get this thing sold quickly. Not met up, but I ended up finding Daddy Pace Morby. Pace is a genius on the creative side, and somebody told me to listen to his Novation spiel. And I did, and I went to a listing. And that changed my life forever. And it was the same situation. It could be sold for about $400,000 fully renovated. This was in Rosamond, California. And I had my license. I was going to go cash offer. It was a VA guy. He was an active duty service member in the Air Force. He owed about $285,000, needed about $20K worth of work. My wholesale offer was like $250. And I'm like, well, they can't take that. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just going to list it. And so as I kind of walked the home, I looked around. He started to try to do the flooring, but he got orders, so he didn't finish the flooring. The backyard was a mess. He had these rooster knobs on his kitchen handles that his wife loved, and I'm like, dude, this is just a weird home. And so I just pitched it. I said, look, man, I could sell this house, and I could represent you as the listing agent, but I don't want it to sit. You're going to be, when you leave for your orders. He was like, in about a week. I said, well, when you're gone, why don't we do this? You're asking $310,000. What if I lock you into $310,000? I come in with my crew. I didn't have a crew, bro. I've never done this. I come with my crew, do it all the time. I got funding ready to go for the renovations, which I did. And I renovate the home on behalf of you, right? Any appreciation I create through the renovation above 310, when I list it, I'll just cover all the realtor fees and closing costs. Whatever's left over will just be a return on my investment, but it's going to be a guaranteed sale for you, and we can get this home in a condition to sell. He loved it, dude. He was like, yeah, let me sign that. And I was like, dude, I don't have a contract. So we wrote on the back of an RPA, like the terms. Now I did end up getting it, of course, completely done. I spoke to some buddies and got escrow handled, but I put about $13,000 in that home. It sold for $405,000, about 3 days on market. And I made my entire money that I made in 1 year as a staff sergeant in one deal by working the sellers into their equity and then taking over the marketing, maintenance, and management of an opportunity. And I just took that exact model, revisited all of my dead wholesale deals where we built rapport. We're only $20,000, $30,000 off. In about 6 months, I made about $500,000 on just doing that. And I just never looked back, man.
Wow. Wow. And so explain how that works from I don't know if just from a legal or compliance perspective, in that, and I guess that's the innovation piece of this, but I don't want to be just assume that all of our listeners understand that term. It's not a common term. I mean, when I saw it in your write-up, I was like, okay, I went and Googled it just because I was like, seen this on my test before, but I need a refresh. And so explain how that goes down and how you can then effectively take proceeds, because that's what it is.
Yeah, it really is, man. So, I mean, coming into it, novation is just kind of a term for replacement of one's position on a contract, right? You're just novating your responsibility, with your homeowner or the A to B. So, the best and easiest way to describe it, because I love when I talk about this, ears perk up, and I'm such a nerd with it, and so I don't want to get too into the weeds. And we teach you everything on that side. And we'll get into it later, but first and foremost, it's really just an on-market wholesale, right? I mean, it's the assignability of what you're doing, and so there's two ways to go about novations, right? One is more of an arbitrage net listing. And net listings, people are like, whoa. But the thing is, when you tell the homeowner that you're providing the service, right, that's when you don't put too much money into it. You can get in front of an opportunity where the seller lives in the house and you can't fully renovate the home. And you just say, well, honey, what if I put, a couple $1,000s into it? I clean out the hoarding rooms. I do the landscaping on behalf of you. I paint your fascia and I take some professional photos, right? If I can just utilize the on-market approach for that and I lock you into what you're asking is, if I do find a retail buyer, they'll just cover my fee, which is going to come out of the equity I've created, right? That is the legality behind it. It more is just an arbitrage approach of just taking your proceeds. Now, you are covering the realtor fees and closing costs, but they would never be able to get that price without you being able to market and provide that service. So it really is cool.
You're netting them. So in this case, you netted
Yeah.
them 310. In a normal world, you sell it for 310, then you take out the fees, you take out the commission.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was going to probably list it because it needs 13K isn't that much, but when I'm going up against homes that are in a very hot market around that year of 2021, they're flying off the shelves renovated, and so when I came into it, he needed the money quick because what did he want to do? He wanted to buy where he was going, and so the on-market approach of listing it for 335 and then getting wiped with 10K seller concessions after it doesn't sell for a month, it just fit the narrative to be able to go, look, why don't we just give you a certain amount? I take the risk, but I also assume the reward if necessary. I'm going to get this property sold, right, with my own funding. I kind of just collaborate with them as a private capital partner, right? And then I kind of work them into the process. They get to see what we're doing with the home. We're appreciating their property. I don't ever take title. So there are other levels of protection in regards to that, of course, that we go under on the underwriting side. But when we list it, I do have an attorney in fact in place, which isn't a power of attorney. It's just a position where we get to be able to employ and negotiate and accept offers on behalf of the seller. But then we get to say, great news. Hey, we got this offer that came in. They love what we did with the house. Here's our escrow. Here's our closing, our title company or our attorney. And they just get to sign off on exactly what they wanted in the first place. And anything above, I just end up, taking as my fee.
Wow. Wow. And that definitely beats the traditional strategy of I'll just buy it for 310, go through that process, then renovate, resell.
And then flip it.
Yeah.
And I get that all the time. People are like, why don't you just take time? Why don't you just flip it? First and foremost, right? What do I not have to do when I do this? I don't have to put 10, 15% down to hard money, right? I don't have to take 2 points on my origination note. I don't have, hard money interest only payments. I don't have to provide a secondary proof of insurance, and I don't have any prepayment penalties. All I have is that 13K or 20 or 50. I've done 300,000 in reno, right? All I need is the renovation necessary to get my cash on cash. And that's so much easier to work so much of a higher profit for the homeowner because I don't have to deduct all these miscellaneous random expenses to nickel and dime them at a cash offer when I can just say, okay, it's like they give me a price and it's always 30, 50,000 above my cash offer. And I just always go, that sounds about right. Now that's a little bit outside of my buy box if we want to close here in a couple of weeks, but I do have good news, right? I have a creative way that we can end up trying to work you into that type of equity, but it is going to be on terms, which all that means is we're going to work together, right? If you want that profit, why don't you work with my patience a bit and let's go to the finish line together. And then they're open to it and they love it. And then for the most part, we end up getting these bad boys sold fairly quickly.
Not to mention the time that it would take to
Oh
buy.
my goodness. Yeah. Closing, you waste weeks on market.
You ever have anybody that's like kind of puts 2 and 2 together on it and kind of thinks to themselves, now wait a minute. If you're offering to do this, you clearly know you can buy it for more. So why don't I just fix this thing up and then real list it then? Have you ever had that happen?
Absolutely, man. That I honestly, whenever I try to disqualify my own offer because here's the thing, right? We're creative solutions for sellers. So you always want to have their best interest at heart. Whether you have a licensed fiduciary or we're working together, I'm working with them, so I want to make sure that we have months that we're usually kind of, pitter pattering back and forth. And I always want to keep it as a good relationship. So If I can't provide the value to them, then I can just help them consult with the service as well. But I tell them first and foremost, I go, well, I could just renovate it myself. And I go, phenomenal. Do you have $30,000, $40,000 to do this? Do you have a crew that you trust? And for the most part, my sellers fall under 4Ds. I say it all the time. I should get them tattooed on my chest, man. Death, distress, divorce, and debt. So if they're needing funding because they're not paying their mortgage, or they're in probate or pre-foreclosure, or whatever the situation is, they might not have the time, energy, or commitment to be able to renovate their house.
Yeah.
And so even if they have a bunch of equity, to even unlock that equity from a bank, they need borrowing power.
Yeah.
And so I ask them right away if they have the opportunity to, and if they say no, I go, well, let me help you on that front, right? Let me come in with the money and my crew. And if this is a certain price that you feel confident in, I do think I can end up making my return, and I'll just be able to have you kick your feet up and we'll take it to the finish line.
Yeah.
And so it's a great way to work together.
So do you still do this from that perspective of, if they say, I'll do it on my own, but I still want you to sell it, do you still sell?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If they got a crew, or they got somebody,
They have
or
the
the funding.
means somehow.
Yeah, they have the means to do it. Of course, I'll list. I'll never turn out a great listing. I'll even consult with them, right? You can do consulting fees. I mean, when it comes down to it, they've never flipped a house, but they have money they inherited. We're in the business of retention, right? I mean, people do business with people. So the cool thing about Novations is I've had so much residual business from it where they go, oh my God, well, I have a cousin in New Mexico needs a new roof, but he's moving to Kansas. Like, can you help out with that? I'm like, yeah, because it's a service you provide. We call it the fee, right? The marketing, maintenance, and management. So we can either take over one or all three of them, and that's going to depend on the price that we want to associate with you.
I love it. I love it. So I assume that this is your primary bread and butter at this point.
It is. Yeah. I'm known for the Novation piece, man. So we do fix and flips. I do a lot of midterm stuff, but I will always have a place in my heart for, just creative, fun seller finance opportunities, for the Novation model. I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
And you teach this stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Novations is my number one object that we do teach. We've been sought after. We've been able to do Novations in every state but a couple, just because, my community doesn't send me deals. And I haven't done one in like Arkansas and like North Dakota, but I've done them like everywhere. But it will work in just about every market, actually, except South Carolina, but that's a different conversation. But yes, if you end up coming in, you want to get taught by me or my team, and you want to learn the underwriting, right? We actually have a program that we call the Dominator program, where, you find it, we fund it. If you just find a deal and you're already a wholesaler or an established agent, and you have an opportunity like this, because they come out of the woodworks, you end up trying to do the warm handoff and pitch our services. If they're into it, we'll get on the phone with the acquisition side, we'll close it, and then we'll finance the entire thing. So you don't need to bring in any cash to the closing table for the renovations, and then we'll work you into the equity, because it's a great way to just be a dispositions company while we can teach and educate people how to acquire opportunity, and we just kind of work together.
Are people doing that for the sake of making a buck, or doing it for the sake of learning how to do it themselves?
It's absolutely both, right? It's very much so OJT. You find me a couple, even as agents, right? Probably 90% of them come from agents. The other 10 easily from the wholesaling piece. But if you got a dud listing, right, it's been sitting 90 days on market, and you go, God, it just needs 12, 13,000 more dollars, right? And the seller doesn't have it. You just pitch my service, right? Amortize realtor fees, closing costs. Say, hey, I got to create because I always say to my people that work with me, that I work for you, Jeff. If you join, I work for you, right? I mean, you found the opportunity. So I always have to position you as a level of authority. So when you go, you know what, honey, like, this property is not selling the way we want it to on market, and it's because of these big ticket items, I actually have a creative financing department that we've already greenlit to be able to fund these issues. Now, I want to get you on the phone with them, because we're going to be able to dictate how we can work you into your equity. They can take over those costs. You don't have to repay them anything, and we can relist it, and they'll cover all of my services. And I do think that's probably going to be the best way to get this property sold, because I know you need the money, right? Just by an agent doing that, man, you do 2 or 3 of those, and all of a sudden you're getting worked into 25, 50% of the proceeds. You don't need me anymore. I can be a transaction coordination company, which means my TCs will work the entire underwriting, but then you can pitch it, you can renovate it, you can use your crews. The whole point is for you to have a self-sustaining model, and you kind of just owning your area. That's why we call it the Dominator program, because we want to give you deals in that area too.
I love it. I love it. And my guess is that when I mentioned in the beginning is helping a seller secure more profit, providing a solution, this is one of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. This is a huge one, and it's all about creative should be complementary and not confusing. And so really the training piece comes from how to pitch it, in a way that makes it's digestible. You don't want to scare them. It is already so different. So when you can come at this from a complementary approach, it's such a click for the homeowners. They're like, yeah, like that sounds way better, And so we get in front of those opportunities. And then the cool thing, it just doesn't stop there. What I love about it is, these properties, they inherit from their father who had just passed, or they're going through a nasty situation. It's residential real estate so emotional, And so when you can kind of hold their hand through the process and bring to life a home that they probably grew up in or they have memories in, and they get to see it taken to the final chapter, they don't give a crap what you make because they got exactly what they want, and they can kind of resolve that part of their life in a way that they didn't feel taken advantage of. And that's been pretty cool, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. I love that, man. And so, all right, then let's shift. Is there another, that you feel like would be something that would be very tangible? Because again, we're going into a time when there's some scarcity. Obviously, there's a lot of agents, and I've interviewed a bunch of them that are like, hey, this is business as usual. This is the way it should be. And I side with that agent, of course, but there's a good portion of our industry that's like, oh my God, buyers' commissions are going away, and we all got to focus on sellers, which is why this conversation is so relevant, because I think there are a lot of agents out there, whether you're fearful or not, that want to shift their career into more of a listing agent. But in order to become a good listing agent, you got to be able to sit down in that living room and secure the deal. And so what is some advice that you would give to an agent that has been all buy side and wants to shift and wants to gain some confidence so they can articulate better and win more listings?
So that's a really good question, and I think positioning yourself onto the listing side so you can control the opportunity, control the offers, and kind of always be on a pedestal as an agent, it is to be very service oriented, And so as they're coming into this, what better way to lock in a listing when you tell the seller, you're going to make 6% and they don't pay for $1 of it, even on the listing or the buyer side, right? If there needs to be work on this side, and I just want to be able to work in the Novation piece to it, because, a lot of homeowners, they're just going to try to get in front of listing whatever. And so whether it needs work or whether it's turnkey, a lot of them are just kind of, gravitating towards whatever they can get. And so if it is going to be on that investment side, right, if you sit down with your homeowner and you go, well, you're able to, keep your agent hat on for a little bit and say, you know what, Brenda, all my sellers are always Brenda. You know what, Brenda? I think this house has great bones. I love what you've done to it. It is a bit dated. There are some things I think that would probably help it sell quicker, and I've annotated them down. I do have a company we can come in. I would love to be able to provide my listing service over to you. But I think I might be able to do you one better. It seems to me like you want to move and you want to get this thing taken care of. I have a company that can come in, renovate the home on behalf of this, and this, whether it's a landscape or small, tangible capital expenditures that can just really provide what we call current condition retail value at no cost to you, right? We'll just lock you into a certain set amount, because if you were to list it at X amount, right, after all the fees associated and potentially seller concessions, we will be here, but through them, they're going to cover all fees, any marketing expenses, all your closing costs, and you're going to be able to get in front of a product you're excited to let go of. Let's at least see what those numbers end up, entailing. And then from there, I don't want listing agents to list houses that are going to sit forever, because unfortunately, what we are seeing is they are over promising, under delivering to the homeowners. And a lot of our properties, man, Jeff, I'll tell you right now, if your listeners are listening to this and they're having some pull towards it and they like it, if you go on Redfin, and I literally do this every Tuesday at 1:30 Pacific in my community, and it never fails. I go on Redfin and I just go to, this is like secret sauce. Just go to 90 days or more market, man. Click, click single families, click fixer uppers, and find it in a market that's, within 30 minutes of a metropolitan area, right? Any area that you're by, just, you're going to have agents. We call it the 50 duds. They're just dud listings. They've been sitting for 90, 120 days. They're getting cash offers anyway. So if you just call and you be able to position a cash offer, they hate you. And you just say, I just tell the agent every time, I go, what are you doing? This thing's been sitting for months. It needs some work. That you're only getting calls from cash investors. So I'm going to do you one better, right? Obviously, I want to buy in this area. I got funds ready to close, but I could just end up bringing my crew in with my money, just tell your homeowner this: property's already vacant. Hey, for you as a listing agent, you don't want to sell this in its condition anyway. So just put this on hold. Don't cancel the listing because it's still going to be yours in a couple weeks, but put this on hold. Tell your seller that we're going to lock them into this amount of price, this certain set number. We're going to come in, we're going to renovate the home on behalf of them. Any appreciation we create, through the renovation, you're just going to relist it, but you're going to list this at its appraised value, which means that your commission is going to double. You're going to sell a house that's actually worth a benefit to your portfolio. The seller's going to get worked into their equity, and then I don't have to wait for cash to close. I mean, you're going to get an offer in a month anyway, or we can be done in 10 days on the reno side, and we can get an offer in a month, right, at full asking. And agents freaking love it. And even if the seller doesn't, you're not prospecting the property, you're prospecting the person. If the agent is on board with you, every listing appointment that they go to, what are they going to do? They're going to pitch your service. And now I'm just getting flooded with opportunities where agents are going, this only needs 8K or this needs 20K. And as they get comfortable with that approach, their commissions are locked. I can even upfront their commissions. It's totally fine. They're able to expand their portfolio, find clients that they actually want to work with on the turnkey side, and sellers can get work directly into things that they deserve, like their price, right? And I just get to play middleman. So if you're an agent, I truly do think creative is the way in 2024. Provide other things outside of just a 3% listing service and, photos, and get in front of an opportunity to actually start understanding that this is the way that things are going to start going, here on out.
That's fascinating, man. Now, as somebody who wants to be in that position, obviously they are going to have to become equipped with a team, a team of a crew, as you say, that can actually do these things, and I guess probably a different level of expertise to be able to obviously oversee. I guess you almost become a GC in a way, or do you have kind of you basically have a GC who's a part of this crew?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So we do have a project management division, right? We have a team of 11 on our end, but the cool thing is,
but when you started, let's talk about
yeah. Oh, small scale, man. Small scale. When I started, and let's just say I was just doing onesies and twosies, we have like 20 to 23 at a given time going now. But we did not start there. You're completely correct. Like our first one or two, I would lean so heavy on that agent because they're the subject matter expert for the area, And so whenever it came down to it, yeah, I do think that there is trial by fire on this, but I kind of wanted to make this even easier for people starting now because we have crews everywhere, right? We are in 10 states, 19 countries, major states. But if you have a good deal, I'd fly somebody down there, but the thing is, I will teach you what to look for, how to look for it. And my agent or my community member will become more of the PM. And that's why we get to work you not only into a full commission, but part of the equity as well that we end up getting paid out on. So you can be getting, some of the proceeds on the back end, plus your commission piece, and giving the seller more money to always make sure your fiduciary is locked and loaded, And so if we can do that, we give you a checklist, what our timeline is, what we're looking for, and you and I just kind of work together, right? That's the cool part. You're going to be my eyes and ears there. And then you just let me know if my contractor's showing up or not. And then from on my side, you need more money, I give you more money, and we just underwrite the entire deal.
It's a win-win-win. Seller wins, agent wins, you win.
It's my favorite way to position it. It's a win-win-win scenario.
Absolutely. Well, so I got two more questions. One, I want to digress back to the Redfin thing. You mentioned Tuesdays at, I think, 1:30. Is that what you said?
Yeah, Tuesdays, 1:30 p.m. Pacific.
What's the deal there?
So I'll have my community. That's my day I come in, right? We have our acquisitions that get on the phone now, but for me, I never want to lose the touch, And so we'll get in front of it. I do a Q&A, but the biggest piece is I just crack my knuckles and I just want to show you that it's freaking, you can do it, right? It's non-stage. You send me the listings, right? You can send me listings that you're afraid to call or that are right down the street from you. You think it might be a great novation because we have deal submission training. We have, deal verification training, everything. So this is kind of a way to piece it together. And I'm a massive fan. I always say imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. So before I even comp it, before I even look at the area, I call because I want to prospect the person, right? And so I get on the phone and it never fails, right? You get in front of exactly how I pitch it, what I say, how I say it, and it just builds the confidence on you to be able to close yourself. But I get multiple contracts. A couple of weeks ago, we did 5 5 contracts from it by just calling agents and pitching this service. And so you become a part of the community, you get those calls, and you just kind of get to sit back and listen to me do it. And then when you feel like you're comfortable to do it, I call on people. I have you call. We all cheers you up. I mean, we're freaking going crazy sometimes. It's like the Wolf of Wall Street on a Zoom on the Tuesdays, man. It's so much fun.
So I was thinking there was some kind of trick to the timing of Redfin, but it's because that's when you guys do your calls. That's the planning, basically.
Yeah. Just when we do our call, you do this whenever you want, but if you go, it's just always analysis paralysis, Jeff. I mean, totally get it. There, I mean, You've been in my community. People have been in my community for months, and I'm like, if you just called 10 agents a day and threw up what I just told you to do this Tuesday, you're gonna come in front of too many opportunities, right? Because it's such, like you said, a nuanced service. Novations is not, it's not market wide just yet, and so if you can kind of pioneer it for your area, you can change your life, in the matter of 60 days. You know what I mean? So it's just all about getting in front of that opportunity.
Two things. Rehash what it is you are searching in Redfin, and then I want you to re-say the imperfect action line again as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if I were to go on Redfin, right, people are always like, but you're giving it away. I'm not giving, this is all public knowledge. You know what I mean? It truly is. There's steps to get to become an expert in that I can help you out, but I want you to fail into your first deal, just kind of stumble into it. But if you go on Redfin, and I only use Redfin because they have the little fixer upper button, I should probably get paid from Redfin of how many damn people I have searching this stuff. But if you go, let's just say Arizona, say, Phoenix, you type in Phoenix, Arizona, you're going to go to the filters, and on those filters, you're just going to click single family house, and then you're going to take off the coming soons, right? So that way you just leave the actives. And then on the time on market, just do 90 or 120 days, because that's going to be your avatar. It's going to be your demographic. You need to target that audience because it's been months already. So they've already been wiped out on the conventional pieces. No one's going to 1031 into a property that's been sitting for 110 days, right? Every homeowner is going to look at that and go, what's wrong with it? I don't want it anymore. It's been too long, which means that you take away the entire pool of the optimism that the market could provide, but you leave investors. But when you leave investors, you'll leave investors that are cash investors, which means that you're just trying to get in front of something that's going to make sense at 40, 50 cents on the dollar. You could come in and be that superhero and just position the seller right around or even at their price, right? Go over the Novation model and collaborate with them. So I would just be, I got off topic, but it would be, I would leave minimum, I would probably do 3 beds, 2 baths. You could do 2 ones. It's just, I want to cast a wider net for my buyers, right? So 3 beds, 2 baths, time on market, 90 days or more. And then there's a little button, right? And it says fixer upper on Redfin. You click that because when they go on the multiple listing service, they're going to try to obviously target, and agents, their narration is the best, with a little tender love and care, this oasis on the corner lot could become your perfect, whatever it is. It's my favorite. So you'll see it. Try to find vacant homes, so they're vacant properties. And usually that just means they're distressed, landlords who probably rented it for years. Maybe something happened with the tenants and they're looking to liquidate and retire or whatever. You just get in front of that call with the agent. You always start with the cash because you are an investor, because you never know. If it's a wholesale deal or a cash deal, I always say do that, because if they're looking at getting in front of cash within 10, 14 days, I can't do that. But if they're willing to be able to work with our patients to provide their level of profit, then you and I can do a lot of business together, and for the most part, they are willing to do that. Now, there's ways to pay the mortgage. It's applicable, and that's all stuff I teach. But then pitch that out. And then I always say, because I just gave you all the nuggets for that, people are going to write it down, and they're going to get too afraid to call, right? So that's where the imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. You can have all of your eggs lined up, dude. You can, but if you wait for all the lights to turn green before you go, you will never start that road trip into real estate, man.
I love it, dude. You don't know this about me, but my line, I do social, obviously, as you can tell. My shitty post will outperform your non-existent one. Same thing.
Hell yeah.
It's like there's only one way you're going to get better at it, and it's do it. So get out of your own damn way. Same exact thing. Like you're afraid to make the call. You're going to suck.
You're going to suck.
But you got to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Only good way to get better at pull-ups is do pull-ups,
That's right.
It's just everything. It just starts with that first step. And I'm glad that you said that. And people look at our Instagrams now and everything, and it's like, dude, it was literally not always like that. I had a road to a million. I mean, I was cringe. There's, people, well, you talk so well. I've been doing it for freaking years because I
Yeah.
started, you know what I mean? Vice versa. Same with
Yeah.
you. So
Yeah.
it is a cool thing that we hit. Accountability is huge for me, especially from the military side. So I'm not always, not that I'm mean, but I'm like, there's just no excuse,
No
right?
bullshit.
Show me your phone. Yeah. I get
Yeah.
all the time. People come up and they're like, it's just, it's been a month, man. I go, show me your call logs. How many agents have you called? Okay, you're the problem. It's very simple. If you are calling them, maybe it's obviously the technique or your tone. Let's dive into it. But when I realize that I hear you and I go, you haven't been dialing, what can I do? You know what I mean? So I love that you say that. I think, unfortunately, people think it's harder than that, and it really isn't.
Yeah. No,
Like, it's totally not.
You're right. You're right. 100%. I love it. And we can go down rabbit holes for hours on that, but we have come against the close to the hour anyway. I want you to be able to talk. I know you've alluded to it, the whole buyer beater thing. So you've got this platform. You've already mentioned, again, you've alluded to some of the calls you guys do. Tell us a little bit more about buyer beater. What if somebody wants to join or learn more about it? Tell us about that, and then tell us the best way to get connected with you guys.
Yeah, man. So Buyer Beater is my company, right? We are creative solutions for sellers. We want to bridge the gap between distressed homeowners and problem solving. And that usually does stem from out of the box opportunity. Now, like I said, Buyer Beater is just a term where you can beat out other buyers because you're not just cornering them into one strategy, right? So we do wholesale, we do list, we do novation, seller finance, seller carry. Now, I don't want you to just cast a wide net. If you're liking what you're hearing, we go very deep on the novation piece. And so if you go to buyerbeateruniversity.com, right, that's where we have a couple options where you can work directly with us and our team. And we do have a full-on mentorship. It is a 90-day money back guarantee. Or if you're already an established wholesaler or agent and you just want to get in front of the tools and resources, start doing this yourself, we have other options for you as well, man. And so it's been really cool. Our community is very close to hitting 1,000 members. We are almost in every state, and it's just one of those fun things where I pour everything that I just talked about on here. Those are my Wednesday Zooms. I do my Wednesdays. I have my Tuesdays, and we have weekly Zooms or daily Zooms every day. And it's just, we become so much of a family, and I want to continue to grow with the right kind of people. And so that's what the community really, really is about. And it's very much so a way to just kind of set yourself up and realizing that you could freaking do it. It's not hard. It's just systems, not rocket science. It's systems, and we can help kind of get you to where you need to go on that side.
I love it. I was kind of hoping it was buyer just made you show them like 40 houses and now you want to beat the crap out of them. I was hoping that was what you were going to be
I know.
teaching here, but
Well, that's actually, it's Universe 2.0, man. That's after you get a couple deals.
I love it.
I know the name is pungent, but it works, man. We love it. Sellers love it. So
it's excellent. And so what is the best way to get connected outside of the website? You mentioned Instagram. Where are the best places to go follow you guys on socials?
Yeah. So for me personally, you can go there. We have a contact form, it's for us to be able to reach out to you. Myself or a partner of mine will reach out to you directly because we want to make sure that you see that we're real people doing real things. And then when it comes down to reaching out to me directly, whether you have questions or, you want to, get in front of a deal or two that you might have already, my Instagram @investwithtrev. Is going to be my handle. Come on over, reach on out, see what kind of business we can do, ask your questions, and also, my YouTube @investwithtrev as well. But I'm very active on my Instagram.
I love it. I love it. Instagram, the website, which again, buyerbeateruniversity.com. I assume when they go somewhere like that, they can schedule a call or whatever is necessary. Is that?
Yeah. I would highly recommend doing the contact form because it's just going to be a great way to position us same day conversation, and we'll end up going from there. So put your information in there and then we'll end up reaching out and seeing how we can work together.
I love it. Dude, this has been eye-opening. I love it.
Yeah.
It never ceases to amaze me. I've done hundreds of these, maybe in the thousands, and I'm always learning something new. So I appreciate you. It's great to make your acquaintance. I'm glad we got to do it, and I look forward to staying in touch.
I appreciate your platform, Jeff. Thank you very much, man.
Lab Coat Agents Podcast.